In January of 2024, armed state troopers pulled up to a quiet Amish farm in Bird in Hand, Pennsylvania. They weren't looking for weapons. They weren't looking for drugs. They were there to seize milk. The farmer's name was Amos Miller. He'd been selling raw, unpasteurized milk from his small organic farm to over 2,000 families across the country. Families who paid $35 for a lifetime membership just for the right to drink milk, the way every American drank it before 1909. That raid made national news. Politicians called it government overreach. Hundreds of supporters flooded the Lancaster County Courthouse. But here's what nobody talked about. The Amish have been drinking this same milk every single day for over 300 years. Their children grow up on it. Their grandparents grew old on it. And they have, quietly, exposed one of the strangest contradictions in American food law. You can buy cigarettes in all 50 states. You can buy ammunition in all 50 states, but you cannot buy a glass of fresh milk from a cow in a pasture in 20 of them. And this is a story the $153 billion dairy industry does not want you to hear. Let me be clear about something first, because there's a lot of confusion about this. When I say raw milk, I don't mean milk that's been sitting in a bucket in the sun. I mean milk that comes from a healthy cow on a clean farm that gets cooled immediately after milking and consumed within a day or two. That's how milk worked for every human being on Earth for roughly 10,000 years. On an Amish farm, the dairy is the heartbeat of the operation. Our cows are grass-fed. They roam on open pasture. They eat what cows are supposed to eat. Not grain from a feedlot, not corn laced with things I can't even pronounce. The milking happens twice a day, once before dawn, once in the late afternoon. Many of our families still milk by hand, though some use simple mechanical milkers that run without electricity. The milk goes straight into steel containers and into a cooling tank. By breakfast, that milk is on the table. The children drink it, the parents drink it. It goes into coffee soup, which is a traditional Amish breakfast dish, warm milk with bread and brown sugar. It goes into butter, into cheese, into yogurt and kefir that the women make fresh every week. There is no factory, there is no processing plant, there is no middleman. And the cream, you should see the cream, it rises to the top, a thick golden layer, because the milk hasn't been homogenized, which is the industrial process that breaks fat molecules apart so the cream won't separate. The Amish never saw a reason to do that. The cream is the best part. Now, here's what most Americans don't realize. The milk you buy at the grocery store has been heated to 161 degrees for 15 seconds, or in some cases, to 280 degrees for 1 to 2 seconds. That's ultra-pasteurization. It's designed to kill bacteria, but it changes the milk. It changes the taste. It changes the texture, and it extends the shelf life from days to months. The Amish will tell you, and they've told me, that store-bought milk tastes like water compared to what comes from the cow. One Amish father I know, his 3-year-old son, refused to drink pasteurized milk. The boy said, and I quote the family here, "Why did they put water in it?" That child had never tasted anything but fresh milk. He didn't know what he was supposed to accept. He only knew something was missing. Now, to understand how we got here, you have to go back to a time when American cities were growing faster than the farms could keep up. In the late 1800s, as people moved from the countryside into cities like New York, Boston, Chicago, the milk supply became a serious problem. Cows were crammed into filthy urban dairies. They were fed distillery waste, called swill, instead of grass. The milk was sometimes watered down, or mixed with chalk, or plaster of Paris, to make it look whiter. Children were dying. Milk-borne tuberculosis, typhoid fever, scarlet fever, diphtheria. These diseases were ravaging city kids, and contaminated milk was a major carrier. This was a real crisis, and pasteurization, The process of heating milk to kill harmful bacteria was a real solution. It was developed by Louis Pasteur in the 1860s, originally for wine and beer, not milk. But by the early 1900s, public health advocates saw that it could save lives. In 1909, Chicago became the first major American city to pass a mandatory milk pasteurization law. New York City followed in 1914. And within a decade, after New York started enforcing pasteurization, infant mortality dropped by more than 2/3. That is not a small number. That is a public health achievement that deserves recognition. But, and this is important, the problem was never the milk. The problem was the conditions. Sick cows, filthy barns, no refrigeration, milk traveling for days in the heat before reaching a customer. Pasteurization solved the symptom, not the cause. And once the large dairy processors saw the business opportunity, they didn't just promote pasteurization as a safety measure. They lobbied to make it the only legal option. By 1947, 34 states had mandated pasteurization for all milk sold for human consumption. And in 1987, federal law banned the interstate sale of raw milk entirely. Now, here is where the story gets interesting. The Amish, who had been producing clean milk from healthy cows on small farms with no history of the urban contamination problems, were swept up in the same regulation. A law designed to fix a problem they never had was applied to them and to every small farmer in America, equally. The old-timers knew the answer was never to process the milk beyond recognition. The answer was to keep the cow healthy, keep the barn clean, and drink the milk fresh. But that approach doesn't scale to a $153 billion industry. Let me walk you through how strange the current system actually is, because most Americans have no idea. Right now, the federal government bans the sale of raw milk across state lines. That's the FDA regulation, Code of Federal Regulations. Title 21, Section 1240.61. If you're a farmer in Pennsylvania and you have a customer in New Jersey, you cannot legally sell them a gallon of milk, even though the two states share a border. But within each state, the rules are completely different. As of right now, roughly 30 states allow raw milk sales in some form. Some allow it in retail stores, like California, Arizona, and Connecticut. Some allow it only on the farm, so you have to drive out to the farm and pick it up yourself. Some allow what are called herd shares, where you buy a share of the cow, and the milk you receive is technically your own property, which sidesteps the sale restriction. And then there are states where it's effectively banned. In places like Hawaii and parts of the South, you cannot legally obtain raw milk for human consumption at all. Meanwhile, in much of Europe, you can buy raw milk from vending machines on the street. The Amish navigate this system, as they always have, quietly. In Pennsylvania, where the largest Amish population lives, raw milk sales are legal if the farm has a permit from the Department of Agriculture. Most Amish dairy farmers get the permit. They follow the rules. They submit to inspections. But the case of Amos Miller, the farmer whose farm was raided in 2024, shows how fragile this arrangement is. Miller operated a private membership association, shipping raw dairy products to families in other states. That crossed the federal line. His products were linked to illness in New York and Michigan, and the state came down hard. Over 350 families wrote declarations to the court, testifying that Miller's products were essential to their diet. Some said his raw milk was the only food they could digest. The judge acknowledged their beliefs, but the law was the law. And that raises a question that has no easy answer. In a country where you can freely buy products with known health risks, why is fresh milk from a small farm the one thing that requires a raid? Now, I want to be precise about something, because precision matters, especially when an industry worth over $100 billion has an interest in the answer. The FDA's official position is that the health benefits of raw milk have not been scientifically substantiated, and the health risks are clear. Since 1987, there have been 143 reported outbreaks linked to raw milk and raw milk products. Those outbreaks involved Listeria, Campylobacter, Salmonella, and E. coli. I'm not going to tell you those risks don't exist, they do. And anyone who says otherwise is either lying to you or selling you something. But here's what the old-timers understood, and what the data also shows: the risk is not in the milk itself. The risk is in the conditions. Raw milk from a CAFO, a concentrated animal feeding operation, where thousands of cows stand in their own waste, eating grain they weren't designed to eat. That milk is dangerous. Pasteurize it, by all means, but raw milk from a small farm where the cows are on pasture, where the barn is clean, where the milk is cooled immediately and consumed within 48 hours, that is a fundamentally different product. And the Amish have been proving that with their own families for 3 centuries. The old-timers had a saying, "You don't fix good milk, you fix the farm." They didn't need a lab to tell them that a healthy cow produces safe milk. They knew it the way a carpenter knows which wood will hold, by experience, passed down through generations, tested not in a laboratory, but in the kitchen, every single morning. Now, let me show you the part they really don't want you to think about. The U.S. dairy processing industry generates roughly $153 billion a year. The fluid milk market alone, just the milk you buy in a jug, is over $20 billion annually. That entire system depends on one thing: pasteurization. Without it, milk can't travel hundreds of miles in a refrigerated truck. It can't sit on a shelf for 3 weeks. It can't pass through a processing plant where milk from hundreds or thousands of different farms gets mixed together in one tank. Pasteurization is what makes industrial dairy possible, and industrial dairy is what makes the profits possible. Now, what would happen if even 5% of Americans decided to buy their milk from a local farm instead? 5% of 20 billion is $1 billion walking away from the supply chain. That is why the regulatory apparatus exists the way it does. Not because every regulator is corrupt. Most of them genuinely believe they are protecting public health. But the system was designed 100 years ago around the needs of an industry, not around the needs of a family. When an Amish farmer sells a gallon of milk to his neighbor, no corporation makes a profit. No processor takes a cut. No distributor loads a truck. No retailer marks it up. The entire supply chain is a cow, a bucket, and a kitchen table. And that is the real threat. Not bacteria, not food safety. The real threat is a model of food production that doesn't need the system at all. Something is shifting in America right now, and the dairy industry knows it. In recent years, state after state has been loosening raw milk laws. Iowa legalized farm-to-consumer raw milk sales in 2024. Delaware passed the Consumer Choice Milk Act the same year. The trend is toward more access, not less. And the Amish, who never stopped doing what they've always done, are finding themselves at the center of a national conversation they never asked to be part of. More than 10 million Americans now consume raw milk, according to some estimates. That number has been growing, and the reasons aren't just about taste or nutrition or tradition. They're about something deeper. People are asking, who gets to decide what I feed my family? The Amish have always had a simple answer to that question: God and the farmer. Not the government, not a corporation, not a processing plant 3 states away. I'm not telling you to drink raw milk. That's your decision, and it comes with responsibilities. You need to know your farmer. You need to trust the source, and you need to understand that fresh milk, like any fresh food, requires care. But I am telling you this the next time you pick up a gallon of milk at the grocery store, look at the expiration date. If it's 3 weeks away or 3 months away, ask yourself what had to happen to that milk to make it last that long. And then think about an Amish child sitting at a wooden table drinking milk that was in the cow 4 hours ago. That child doesn't know about FDA regulations. He doesn't know about Code of Federal Regulations Title 21. He doesn't know that what he's drinking is illegal to sell in 20 states. He just knows it tastes right. There's a proverb we have in our community: the man who trusts his own cow will never go hungry. For 300 years, the Amish have trusted their cows. They've trusted their land. They've trusted the way things were done before someone in an office decided that fresh milk needed to be illegal. The old-timers didn't fight the system. They didn't protest. They didn't hire lawyers until they had to. They just kept milking every morning, every evening, the same way their fathers did, and their fathers before them. And when the world finally comes around to asking whether maybe, just maybe, the simplest answer was the right one all along, the Amish will still be here, doing what they've always done, quietly,